Hello, and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 54 for the fourth time at attempting to start recording this podcast. But I think we got it this time. Hi, my name is Ryan Higgins. I'm your host here with the most. And I'm joined by the man shaking his head.
The most.
The ghost with the most.
The ghost with the most?
Yeah.
You're not the host with the most?
Who are you?
Brock Sager.
And we got someone down the other end of the table. Who's this?
Charlie West.
Hello, Charlie.
Yeah.
No Omar, no Toby. Toby's still off in wherever he is. No other random people. It's a small...
I think Omar's hero clicked out. He had a long weekend.
Yeah, small crew this week, so that's good. It'll give us something to talk about here. All right. I don't know. What is this? Monday, April 23rd. So we just had a big sale over this weekend. 19th anniversary sale of the store.
Woohoo!
Fun times. Charlie and Brock and Marshall and a couple more of the guys who were here helping out all weekend. So good times.
It's always fun.
Yeah, we sold a lot of physical comic books despite people, not wanting to buy
toys.
Buy comics. You sold a lot of toys.
Yeah, tons of toys.
Sometimes we go through, because toys take up so much space, so every now and again when we do these sales, I usually do like half off on toys just because there's so much new stuff coming in that I just want to clear out the old stuff. We blew through a lot of toys. Sometimes we don't. Normally we sell some.
We haven't blown through this many in like a couple years.
Well, we had a couple guys come in and grab at half off, 20, 30 figures. One guy on Friday especially picked up a big stack of stuff. So, yeah, good on them. Cheap toys. It's good stuff.
Cheap toys.
Yeah. I think, Brock, you got an email you want to read there.
Yeah, this is from Chris. Let's see. He says, "Hey guys, great job on the show. I don't even read comics, but I still enjoy listening. You guys have convinced me to start picking up some trades here and there, but it's a bit overwhelming and I don't know where to start. I was looking around Brock's website. Yes, a visitor, nice. And saw a reading list for Green Lantern, so I will be picking up Rebirth. But what I'm looking for is a good starting point for Batman. Will you guys be working on a reading list for Batman stuff also, or did I just miss it on the website? Thanks for any help, guys, and great job on the show again."
Long Halloween.
Hush.
Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. You start with Long Halloween, and then you go to Hush. And,
Well, Batman doesn't have a modern chronological
He will.
order.
Or the Earth 1 book, but it's not even a continuity.
Yeah. Batman's not quite like Green Lantern, where you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4 and follow the volumes. The continuity would be year 1, Charlie, is where you start.
yeah, if you want to go that way.
And then Long Halloween, because Long Halloween, it takes place right after year 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you're kind of, Dark Victory, which is the follow-up series. And then you can kind of go wherever. Because the great thing about Batman, we've said this on the podcast before, but the great thing about Batman is how many just individual story arcs there are that don't cross over or connect to anything else. Whereas Green Lantern, you kind of have to read when Jeff Johns started from the start up, and it's all kind of in order. Batman, there's so many different creators that you can jump in anywhere at any point. Well, some are better than others, but...
Well, I mean, even then, I kind of like how when you read certain things on Batman, it kind of leads you to other stories that you want to check out. It's sort of like, it's very easy to kind of go from Hush to Under the Red Hood or a couple of other things. So,
they're always...
all interconnects.
Yeah, they're always following up on each other to a degree, but it's not like there's a numbered order from the start of Batman's history.
Yeah, I mean, if there was an order number, it'd be like, it'd start with Morrison stuff. It would be the most recent if you were kind of going in a chronological order. But that's the thing is, like, I went and did a Superman one, but I didn't really, all I did was just throw trade titles out there in kind of an order that they were published, not necessarily a reading order. So with some things like, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, you don't really have a clear jumping on point.
I think with Batman, like you said, with the Morrison stuff, if you want to start there, the first book to pick up would be the new hardcover collection of Batman the Black Glove, which actually collects a number of the individual volumes, which are mostly out of print now already, which I was unaware of until I looked them up the other day to reorder. I was like, oh, these are all out of print. And it collects that, and then you go into Batman R.I.P. after that, which is right around time of Final Crisis. So those, for modern stuff, that'd be, or just jump in any of these new 52 titles when the trades come out this summer.
With Batman, they're also doing, they're doing a lot of the big stories like Nightfall, No Man's Land. What's the other one that they're doing? Was there another one that they're...
they're reprinting the Morrison stuff, but I don't know about... I don't know.
But
about
they're I
anything
mean, they're reprinting those big Batman stories that happened
Yeah.
in the 90s and 2000s. So, yeah, I mean, it's because, I mean, the early Batman stuff goes from like detective to kind of slapsticky and you know, humorous and
You're talking like the Golden Age stuff?
yeah, the Golden Age stuff and
I wouldn't say slapstick, but it's very lighthearted. I mean, once you get out of the 40s, I mean, the Batman stuff gets pretty lighthearted.
and then it started to pick up an edge in the late 60s, 70s.
Yeah, late 60s started to when they sort of get away from the TV show. Yeah, they're gonna reprint all the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil stuff. Because they've started to do some of the soft cover versions of those.
Yeah.
The Neil Adams collections, which are a lot of the really good stuff from the 70s. They bring back the Joker, who had been gone from the comics for a long time. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, if I get a chance, I'll try and do a Batman list for maybe Morrison. Maybe a couple recommended reads for Batman.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So, Chris, thank you.
We got a few people on Twitter that sent us a message right before we started recording. I figured I'd give a little shout out because we didn't have too many emails, so I figured see if anyone had any questions.
The feelers out to the real world.
Yeah, anything they wanted to hear about. We got a couple questions here, but there was one I wanted to read, and then we'll get to the other ones. The first one is, and we can talk about this all day, and we've talked about this so many times, so I just want to kind of hit this real quick from a guy named John. He said, of the rejiggered 52, which book are you happiest with the new directions they've gone with the characters? So specifically, new direction they've gone, not because I mean Batman and Green Lantern. I mean they're the same. They have
You can't include those. Those are the same.
the new direction.
I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, it's funny because the ones that jump out to me that have the most crazy changes, besides Superman and the JLA, the changes on the rest of them aren't that drastic. I think JLA, Superman, and Teen Titans have the most drastic changes. Stuff like Black Hawks is modernizing and updating. I mean, I guess Captain Atom's pretty heavily
but even then,
changed.
as I kind of touched on before, it's definitely a big change for Captain Atom, but not necessarily a huge change for versions of Captain Atom.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, Green Lantern, Hawkman. Hawkman's pretty different. Aquaman's pretty much the same. Yeah, I would go, man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm happiest with Teen Titans, but I like it. I just don't know if I'm the happiest with it. But I'm going to say Teen Titans for right now. It's very different. I mean, I'm happy with Superman. I should rephrase that. I'm happy with action, if less so Superman.
I'm really enjoying the takes they've taken with the like Madame Xanadu and John Constantine and the Demon and all that, you know, Frankenstein, all of those the Edge books. I mean,
but I almost don't feel that those characters haven't really changed. They're just back in the DC universe.
Yeah, but the thing is back in the DC universe, they've been out of place for so long. I mean, we've enjoyed it because we've come across like Frankenstein and the Creature Commandos when Johns brought them back in action a few years ago. And, you know, they popped up again in Blackest Night, in Batman Superman, especially with the Frankenstein characters.
Yeah,
but
Frankenstein's exactly like it was pre-relaunch.
But
for
like
the Morrison stuff.
with like Madame Xanadu, they kind of gave us this Madame Xanadu before the relaunch, and now we have the early version for Demon Knights of her character, and then we have like the pill-popping drug addict version that's in Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
And they brought back the Changing Man. I mean, even though his character is virtually the same, it's like all that Edge stuff kind of gives you a new take. I mean, the Suicide Squad is what it should be.
The Squad's pretty much the same.
Yeah, but the book is what it should be. Yeah. A very, in your face, violent.
You know, I actually see here I'm kind of stuck in a weird position because I like Teen Titans, but I don't think I like it better than the old one, but I like it. Birds of Prey.
Well,
I think I like the original version better, but I really like Birds of Prey. It's just different. Red Hood. I think I'd actually like this take on Red Hood and Arsenal better than the original stuff. I never really cared for either of them, so they were never like my favorite characters.
Well, hey,
so
Arsenal has his hand back.
And I really like this. I really like Red Hood and the Outlaws, so don't mind that alarm sound if you heard that.
It's just the birds chirping.
Charlie, what do you think your favorite is?
Well, my favorite is definitely Demon Knights. And while I agree with you, the origin may not have changed very much. The fact that they're sort of telling that in the past and sort of keeping it there for now is very different than they've done in a long time.
Yeah.
Not to mention, as I sort of touched on before, I like the fact that a lot of the characters that exist in Demon Knights already have a history that sort of allows them to be in that book and still pop up in other books.
Right. We also got two questions that were kind of similar here. One from Danny, one from Jason, basically asking about the Marvel and DC animated series. I actually got an email about this a few weeks ago, and I wanted to wait till Toby was back because I know he's real big into the animated stuff, but I figure we can touch on this real briefly. DC, Green Lantern and Young Justice. Now, Brock, I know you haven't watched any of this stuff. Charlie?
I'll probably be getting into this stuff when my son's a little bit older.
Yeah.
But
You've been...
I'll buy it for now.
I'm current.
Yeah, I haven't watched... I'm like two or three episodes behind on all of them, basically. DC and Marvel stuff. But no spoilers, but what are you thinking?
Oh, I'm really, really enjoying everything they're doing. I mean...
I guess you don't have the Marvel one, right? You haven't seen...
I haven't seen the Marvel one.
Okay.
I haven't seen... I've seen the season 1 of Earth's Mightiest because I bought them, and I don't have Disney XD at home to watch them as they're airing, so I just wait for them to pop up on Netflix or come out on DVD so I can buy them. But I'm current on the DC side of things, and I'm really enjoying those shows, and I'm really enjoying the shorts. Even though I will say this about the shorts, it's sort of like that, an Animal Man short that I swear, anybody who watches that Animal Man short and comes in and tries to buy the Animal Man book...
Not quite the same.
No, not at all.
That's Starfire, right? You're supposed to come in and get the same thing.
Well, no, I'm just saying that they really sort of treated like the Animal Man short as more like a Plastic Man kind of character, where it just has to do with the quick 1-2 jokes, and that's fine. I enjoy quick 1-2 jokes with DC characters as much as the next guy. It just
they're half a minute. Are they 30 seconds? 15? They're really short.
Yeah, they're like 30 seconds to a minute depending on the one. And I love the new Teen Titan ones.
Yeah, those have been pretty funny. You told me about the more recent one, but I haven't seen that.
Mean, the fact that they have all the Teen Titans voices in there and stuff from the show, it's definitely a very nice throwback, and I love throwbacks.
Yeah. Well, Green Lantern surprised me a little bit. I was not that big of a fan of the pilot, especially since the animation was not good. But I'm getting used to it. I actually think it's gotten a little bit better. The animation quality's got a little better now that they're actually in the show. And it's seeming pretty fun. Young Justice is far and away the best animated show on TV right now for me. I mean, the stuff I watch. And Young Justice is just so... I mean, it could fit right in with the Justice League Unlimited and Teen Titans continuity stuff. I mean, it is so well done.
To me, what is just... Yes, it's so well done. It's so well animated for the most part. And I'm enjoying the fact that I don't know if they're going out of their way or just somebody throws the name out there and they go, sure, let's do an animated version of him. But it's like, they recently had Icon on there.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I'm sort of shocked that I got to see that, and that's awesome.
Well, they're going deep with the animated characters. I mean, they're using so many crazy characters that I never thought I'd see. So
and I love all that stuff. I love it when they can kind of give people who have been watching all these animated shows for all this time just that little something extra. And I remember the same kind of thing with like Justice League Unlimited. It was all about like, oh, did you see so and so in the background? And
as far as the Marvel stuff goes, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, again, a little slow to start off on the first season, but by about the second arc... Well, yeah, I know. Once they kind of got a little bit into it, I thought it was really good. Easily the best thing, personally, I think Marvel's done for a while. I know a lot of people are big fans of Spectacular Spider-Man, but it never did anything for me. This is easily my favorite Marvel show in quite some time. Charlie, I know you saw the first season, so...
Yeah,
I know you like Spidey, though, so...
Yeah, I like Spectacular Spider-Man. That was a lot of fun, and in some ways it's, again, one of those examples where it was working for me. It was sort of very Ultimate-esque in the way that they were reusing characters but keeping the spirit. So I was kind of depressed when they canceled that to start making a Ultimate-esque Spidey show.
Yeah.
But Earth's Mightiest, I actually like the fact that you can tell when they were developing that show, they took sort of the lessons from how they were developing the movies to sort of approach it the same way of, okay, we really need to firmly grasp Iron Man's character in this episode and get people to know who Iron Man is, and then do a Cap and a Hulk and a this. And I mean, they would have multiple characters in each episode per se, but they gave each character a chance for the audience to get to know before launching the main stuff. And this always worked for me in the 90s on sort of like the Spider-Man and the stuff there. And X-Men, I love it when I start watching something. I'm like, wow, this is like either a direct adaptation or very heavily inspired by this particular comic story. And Earth's Mightiest is definitely going for that kind of feel, where they're definitely looking at the comics and going, what stories really, really worked? Why did they work? What can we bring in from those stories into here? And
well, it's funny because I think Earth's Mightiest Heroes does such a good job with the long story arcs, with the continuing plot lines. It's humorous to then read, I think, on comicbookmovienews.com, I think is the site. Is it Comic Book News? It's a really popular site for comic, movie, and animated news stuff. That apparently our good friend Jeff Loeb does not want to continue Earth's Mightiest Heroes and wants to cancel it because he wants more Ultimate Spider-Man, which I watched the pilot of Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, I think I mentioned this a little bit. It was painful to a level I can't even begin to describe. Actually, I can't describe it. It's like an entire episode of Beast Boy from the Teen Titans, which that may sound okay, but Beast Boy was funny for 30 seconds at a time, and one or two times when they would kind of step out of reality, not 30 minutes of it. And then the other half is kind of like this weird Family Guy cutting to weird reference stuff. It is the most manic, Ritalin-needing show I've ever seen in my life, and juvenile as all hell, and dumb. I mean, just dumb. I tried. I mean, it has Nova in it. Yeah. I mean, it has Nova in it, so I was willing to give it a shot. I got to the 30 seconds after the commercial break on the second episode, and I'm like, no, I can't deal with this. This is the worst show I've ever seen in my life. It's seriously, I can't say how bad it is.
well, if anybody who's out there who's looking for some good Marvel television, they do have like the 90s Marvel stuff on Netflix. Watch instantly.
That stuff is 1,000 times better than Ultimate Spider-Man. I would rather watch effing Force Works and Iron Man than that, and that show's not so good. I would rather watch the Hulk, and that show's not so good.
Hulk had its moments.
It has moments, but I mean, this is the cheapest animation, just the worst stories, just the most juvenile, dumb humor. It's so bad. I can't even describe it. It's just so bad. People have said, oh, well, you're not the target audience. And I'm like, yeah, but I shouldn't be the target audience for Earth's Mightiest Heroes or Justice League Unlimited or any of these other cartoons. But I sure like those because they were good, because they reached multiple people. You know, Batman the Animated Series worked on multiple levels. Yeah. This works on no level. So there you go. I actually do really like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and I'd be very disappointed if they canceled it because it's the best thing they have.
Which anybody who's been following us on Twitter is well aware of the fact I wasn't happy when they canceled Spectacular Spider-Man. So this just, again, it's like, okay, we got something that's working. It seems to be hitting the right notes and how people are reacting to it. It's time to change it. That's not really how this stuff is supposed to go.
Yeah, we're used to that from Fox.
Yeah. Well, it was a big, big week of comic news and things to talk about here, so I'm going to hit a few things real quick, but I think there's one big elephant in the room we kind of want to talk about.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. James Sim of Isotope Comics and iFanboy is going to be hosting the Grant Morrison convention called Morrison Con, September 28th through 30th in the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. Dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm not a Vegas guy.
Well, you went to Morrison Con 2 years ago.
Huh?
It was 2 years ago, right?
This is the first Morrison Con.
Well, no, when James had...
I mean, he's signed it at Isotope a couple times. Yeah, I mean, I've been there.
But this is the first, official Morrison Con?
There those were just a signing at a store. This is something called Morrison Con. It is Grant Morrison and 9 hand-picked comic creators. 3 days, Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas. I have no idea of pricing, no idea what the hell's going on. I mean, I don't drink. I don't go to strip clubs.
Gamble.
I don't gamble. I've been to Vegas once. The Star Trek experience was awesome. Like, it was cool to walk around, but I don't do Vegas-y stuff. But for this, it's like, oh man. I'll have to see, because I know I'm not going to Comic-Con this year, so maybe Morrison Con will be my Comic-Con.
See, for me, part of the reason why I am interested in Morrison Con being in Vegas is just one of those general things of, I know I can find a cheap hotel in Vegas because hotels in Vegas are cheap.
Hard Rock,
cheap.
you have
And
to
a
stay at the
cheap
Hard Rock.
flight.
No, you don't have to say that. You can stay at the Flamingo.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like you could get a cheap hotel and you can get a cheap flight to Vegas from here. And
Yeah.
so now I
And-
just need to know what other expenses might be involved, and
Yeah.
I'll decide. But
Yeah, I mean, you can get flights fairly cheap. I mean, September, I don't know if that's an off time for Vegas or not, but
Yeah, after school starts, so yeah.
this is true. So, I mean, a couple days in Vegas,
Yeah.
hang out with Morrison and 9 hand-picked creators.
I'm sure it's going to be Frank Wiley and Cameron Stewart, and I mean, just all his.
Then they'll have,
artists.
that one great cancellation and then Mark Miller will show up.
Oh, like Mark Miller and Grant Morrison hate each other, right? I mean, they would never. I don't think they'd ever be in the same room anymore. Some rumor going on. Bleeding Cool reported on this a little bit that DC is going to be bringing back their Zero issues for the New
It's
52.
not rumor.
It's not a rumor.
Yeah,
No,
It was
it's
officially
official
announced that-
today.
Yeah,
did they really?
Yeah. It's official as of the Boston Con.
yeah, something like that.
Huh?
It'd be official.
You were doing the order. The rest of us were on our phones.
Like on the source or something?
No, it's on. It's on.
I saw it on Bleeding Cool.
Yeah, and yeah, at the Boston Con, they basically confirmed it. Okay, well,
Yeah.
they didn't basically confirm it. So, yes, DC has not confirmed this, so until DC confirms it, it is not official. Right? I mean, who knows?
Damn it, we'll put enough pressure on them. They'll come out
Sure.
with Zero issues.
So basically, Zero issue, for people that weren't fans at the time, DC did a series called Zero Hour, where they basically went back and they did these 1 month, they skipped the issue number, and they the next month after they went back to that issue number, but for 1 month, every issue came out with an issue number 0. And it was sort of like a redone origin of the character, sort of just modernized it up a little bit, changed a few continuity things up here and there.
Yeah. Some titles got fully relaunched at issue 1. And
Launched, completely launched, like Starman and a few other books. So kind of the wording here from Rich Johnson is the Zero issues, while telling a kind of year one story for the title, is filling in continuity gaps also intended to lead into issue 13 of the comic. So it'll be during, between 12 and 13. Matters that are raised in the past will lead directly into matters expressed in the present the next month. This will prevent any books from suffering the taint of being skip issues. So, Brock, before we were recording, you seemed pretty against this. Charlie, before recording, you seemed pretty for this. I am also pretty for this. So, what do you don't like about this?
I don't know. Ever since the Zero issues back, 0 Hour, it's fine. It came out with 0 Hour. It was kind of this.
Come on, it's got Parallax.
Oh, jeez. Well, Batman and Green Lantern aren't even getting them.
We don't know what's getting anything.
So, I think it was somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of going back and
They said all of them.
redoing a Zero about
They said all of them.
about 15 minutes through, or like a couple issues through.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's going.
Toby just came to our door and stared in, and apparently he's walking away. I don't know. Is he coming back? Okay. Charlie, go find out what's up with Toby. Well, I'll talk to Brock here for a minute. Bye, Toby.
Bye, Toby. Toby. No, it's one of those things where it's like you do this whole reboot with the number ones across the board.
Yeah.
And then about a year later, now you're going 0 issues. To me, it's kind of like those are preview issues. Those are kind of teaser issues. They're kind of the issue that, gives you just a taste of what you're going to experience. Whereas something like an annual is something that we can enjoy. Like, I'm really excited for the Batman annual that's coming out with the Mr. Freeze story in it by Scott Snyder. You know, that's the kind of stuff like, an annual, because I miss annuals. Those things that collected a couple stories and
they're doing annuals.
But they're not. But across the board to do zeros, but not doing annuals across the board.
So I don't understand what the difference is. It's just call it 12.1, okay?
Oh,
call it 12.5. It's just a thing in between. I don't think it's. I don't.
Why does this make issue 13?
Because the whole point is that it's a quote-unquote event, and so it's just something for them to have, just a way to have this sort of be like, here's like a read-on origin bit, and then we're going to also the new story arc. It basically leads into the new story arc. So yeah, I don't see the hate. It sounds like you're just arguing.
No, it's not hate. It's just it's a gimmick.
Sure,
and it's but that's the thing
a gimmick.
Everything. No, I understand everything's a gimmick, but you have to, it's a gimmick. So I can't be skeptical of it. If it works, it works. Cool. Just like the rejiggering, it worked. Cool.
But I don't. If the exact same story was in an annual, you'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of 52? I'm just curious.
The actual 52?
Yeah, the 52, the comic that was supposed to fill in the 1 year jump ahead after Infinite Crisis.
It doesn't sound like he's angry, or it doesn't sound like he doesn't want the story to be there.
The story's fine. Like it's cool that the story.
Just mind them skipping a month.
It's the gimmick that let's release it in a zero after 12 issues have come out, like we did in the past.
Annuals have normally been additional.
Right. Mm-hmm. This is actually an issue in the series. So I don't get, like, if the exact same story, but it was in a thing, but it was called an annual, you'd be fine.
Mm-hmm. Or if it was technically issue 13, you'd be fine.
Exactly.
Okay.
You just don't like them calling it zero.
Well, zero doesn't come before 12, and it doesn't come after 13. Or sorry, zero comes before 12, but not in between 13 and 12.
Yeah, but if you want to get into sort of chronological storytelling, you could say zero comes before
Hold
1.
on, I got it. Put together a Booster Gold run. Yeah. And bind it. Have fun.
They have that 0 and 1 million issue. Yeah, you just put them in between the two issues that come out in. Well, all my zero issues from all the stuff from DC in the 90s, I just put in at the start of the series. But I have my Legion stuff and I have my reading order for all my Legion of Superheroes books, I just put it in between the two issues it comes out in. What's it matter? Yeah. Like, at this point, the renumbering and the changing and the point ones and the reboots, it's like, at this point, it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, they've already ruined everything's already been ruined 1,000 times over, so I just don't see the point.
Well, I mean, for me, that's the whole thing with the renumbering and everything in general, is as soon as they reach an anniversary,
there you go.
Numbering's going to shift again. So,
all right, who cares?
But do you count that zero issue?
Of
course they're going to count that zero issue.
Or they don't. It doesn't matter. Toby.
Yo.
How you doing?
Hello.
You're back.
Yes.
We missed you last week. We missed you for the first half of this podcast as well.
Yeah.
You snuck up on us. All right. How you doing?
Yeah. Good. You?
Good. We are well. We are well. Glad to have you back.
Yeah.
No Omar this week, but you can be here for the last half. Actually, because I don't know what you've seen because you've been super busy, but I want to get your opinion. A few minutes ago before you came here, we were actually
absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, we were talking about the
I have no idea what's going on. Haven't read anything. I'm coming in blind.
Well, we were talking about both the new DC animated series and the two new Marvel animated series.
Oh, I've seen the Super Best Friends #2.
But I'm talking the actual half an hour episodes, or specifically
the animation blocks,
right?
Well, which one, Young Justice or?
Well, Young Justice and Green Lantern, but Spidey.
Well, I don't watch the Green.
Oh, come on!
No.
What about Spidey? Have you seen Spidey or Earth's Mightiest Heroes?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
I really want to get your opinion on Spider-Man if you watch it.
Yeah, you're going to have to give it to me. Or someone has to upload it on YouTube for me to watch it.
Okay. Well, you're the cartoon guy, man.
I haven't found no one has been uploading it.
You've seen Legend of Korra, though, right?
Not #3 yet.
Okay,
because no one's uploading that on YouTube either.
That's illegal, Toby. We do not
doing the
and Marvel's attached to Disney, and Disney's a shark about that shit.
Well, Young Justice on there, it's just in reverse. I watch everything in reverse. It's like mirrored.
Yeah.
Is that the manga version?
Nah. Okay, well, never mind then. Forget it. Forget I said anything.
Oh,
what a waste of like 2 minutes. Well, good. Well, glad to have you back. Well, then you're not going to have any idea what we're going to talk about for probably the rest of this episode. But
Okay.
you can have some opinion, I'm sure.
Sure.
Well, you'll hear us talk about this, and well, I'm curious because you probably haven't heard much about this because
No.
you've been gone all week, so
Yeah.
you literally don't know what we're going to talk about.
I
right
have
now.
no idea at all.
Last week, a semi-prominent writer for DC named Chris Robertson, I should say. I would say Robertson. It's Robertson.
Robertson?
No T. Said that he had basically quit DC, specifically because of the Siegel and Schuster lawsuits.
morality.
And because of the before Watchmen comics that DC is putting out, he feels he does not want to partake in a company that is involved in these moral and legal quandaries. It basically said, he doesn't want to work for DC. So,
No, he doesn't want to work for DC anymore. And
but he still had.
Well, but his fan base, because he tweeted this, he said that he was going to finish his arc on Ferris.
Right. Well.
He
So
said he finished the stuff he was under contract.
To finish. He was going to finish that because that was a shout out to his fans.
So Chris Robertson was the creator of iZombie for Vertigo. He also wrote some of the Fables miniseries under Bill Willingham.
Cinderella's.
He's also he also finished off the Superman stuff with Joe Michael
think
Straczynski
so.
and not Chris Robertson. That's the
think
same
so.
guy. Yeah.
I'd have to double check, but it sounds right.
Yeah. So he came out and basically said, I'm done with DC. They're going to finish publishing my last little bit stuff, and then I'm out. And DC said, well, since you've quit, we've paid you for your comics. We're just going to shelve them. And no, we're not going to publish your comic books because you've dragged our name all over the dirt. And he came out and said, this kind of prominent article written by David Brothers, who's a writer for Comics Alliance and a few other websites, Fourth Letter. He was like, I totally agree with this guy. He basically said, I will never read a Marvel or DC comic again because of their treatment of their creators.
I read that article, or most of that article. It was really long.
It was all right. So, Dan Didio and Jim Lee recently were, this past weekend, were at a convention talking about Watchmen, and they asked about, Alan Moore and Chris Robertson and everything. Jim Lee trying to be a little diplomatic, Dan Didio being pretty much upfront and just said, as far as I'm concerned, he made a very public statement about not wanting to work with DC, and we honored that statement.
Corporate mumbo jumbo.
By firing him off the book. So, the question here is, I know which side, and anyone that follows me on Twitter knows which side I'm on. Barack, I think you have some opinion on this as well.
But
It's a little counter to mine. Charlie, I actually don't know your opinion on this. And Toby, just from the little bit you've heard, I'd be curious to get your opinion. So Barack, I know you have a lot to say on the subject. Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, the guy just voiced his, he's working for DC. He doesn't feel like he wants to work there anymore. He basically said to his fan base, to the people that read his work and enjoy his work, basically, I'm no longer be working at DC. I'm going to finish this stuff out, but I'm done. Which was a fair statement. It's not anything,
It was more than that.
Well, their morality issue. Oh my God! You bring that up?
Hold on. His actual tweets were. I'll read this here. Aside from the Ferris arc, I'm already committed to doing iZombie with the last time I ever write for DC. So these are all public. Sorry, in a better world, characters like the Legion would be owned by a more ethical company, but sadly not in this one. The short version is, I don't agree with the way they treat other creators in their general business practices. I decided quite some time ago, but waited to quit, basically. But waited until after the cancellation of my books was announced to discuss it. So the article was David Brothers. They actually ran it on Comics Alliance called Creator Rights Before Watchmen, Avengers, More Kirby. I mean, if you look that up, that'll be the link of the article he talked about.
Yeah.
So those were his very public statements about a current employer.
But that's the thing is it's his opinion. I mean, does his contract specifically state you can't say anything bad about us? obviously said in his that he was waiting till his things were announced canceled to make a comment about this. So he was at least respectful to DC. And then DC turns around and just kind of says, okay, you want to quit? You're fired. So it's kind of DC's being the child here in essence. And then, it's one of those things where a lot of people like you're going to side with the corporate saying, oh, DC, blah, 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 blah. And some people are going to side with Chris saying, it's not necessarily that anybody's in the right. It's just Chris voiced an opinion and DC kind of took its weight and is pushing it around. So to jump on, he didn't say, oh, DC sucks. They're a horrible company. Blah, 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 blah. He just said
He pretty much did.
Okay, hold on. Did he say they sucked?
No,
he said that he did not believe in their moral or whatever, their ethical decisions and treatment of creators.
He said they would be owned by a more ethical company.
Oh, God, they suck.
I don't agree with the way they treat creators or their general business practices.
Okay, so he's basically...
Shorthand, they suck.
Okay, but did he say they sucked?
Yes.
No, he didn't.
Charlie, actually, you seem to be more on my side here. Let's hear it before I get into my rant.
See, to me, this is just... There's always this sort of gray area.
Actually, before you get into further, I want to say I'm going to say there's 3 parts that we need to discuss here on this. First, a little bit of the whether it's the Siegel and Schuster lawsuit, whether it's the way Marvel has treated Jack Kirby and his family, and then the way they treated specifically Chris Robertson. But then there is sort of the overall discussion of corporations and the people that work for them and the rights of creators. So, I mean, there's a couple different points. So I kind of want to have a hit on all these points if we have the time here. So sorry to interrupt you, Charlie, but go ahead.
To me, I have no problem with him wanting to leave DC. I don't even have a problem with the statements he made.
Totally agree.
But like most things, it kind of comes down to... Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure some scripts were finished, but it sounds to me like he said he was going to finish working on the stuff that he had committed to working on.
I believe they were completed, maybe not drawn, but his scripts were completed as far as I know. They just hadn't been published yet. So DC, they had already paid him for the scripts. They just binned the scripts. So,
I mean, to me, there's all sorts of business sense that comes in there to be able to say whether or not... Like, I'm curious to see how it affects the books that they just bin the scripts of, because, I mean, they were obviously already solicited. Are they going to...
I don't think they were solicited yet. Or at least maybe the first issue, because I think it was... I think he was either doing the second or third arc in Ferris, which is a sequel to his Fable, or to his Cinderella arc.
Well, I guess sort of the bottom line for me is I don't particularly care one way or another if DC decides to publish those books or not. I mean, on the one hand, if there's a demand, they're a business, they'll publish the books. Mm-hmm. They're in it to make money, just like before Watchmen and everything else. And you can argue one way or another about how that sort of equates to morality or not morality or this or that. But there's a lot of stuff that within the comic industry has always seemed very backwards to me. So this is just more par for the course. I mean...
Well, let me ask you a question here, Toby, so I can get your input on this or something. Okay. Your current employer, nameless. Who will remain nameless, all right? Doesn't matter what your current employer is, your current employer. If you publicly came out and trashed your public employer... You publicly trashed your current employer.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have a job there the next day?
Absolutely not.
Right. Charlie, if you came out and you made some very public comments about your work, do you think you would have a job there the next day?
Most likely not.
Yes. Brock, what do you think? Do you think that you'd be fired if you came out and you in this... Now you have to look at the way the comic book industry is set up. The
thing is
it's a very different industry than a lot of others.
Anytime you badmouth something in the sense of, stating your opinion or so on and so forth, it just depends. It's the severity of it. It's all of us have jobs, but we're not in. I mean, I don't know about Charlie's job. Toby, I don't know about you specifically, but those aren't creative positions. Those aren't positions that are. Like Chris, he said, my obligation was met.
Doesn't matter. It's a current employer.
Current employer?
if you work at McDonald's and you trash talk McDonald's, they're going to fire you.
Yeah.
If you work for the White House and you trash talk, you're going to get fired. That's just that. It's stupid to think otherwise.
But is it necessarily trash talking when he's just saying he doesn't believe in their
moral and ethics,
moral and ethics, and the way they treat creators? I mean,
yes.
That's trash talking, man.
Oh yeah, that's trash talking.
It's however you want to put it, man.
Brock,
That's trash
Brock,
talking.
if you
can put it as nicely as you want. In the end, it's still trash talking.
If you made public tweets tomorrow saying, "Man, Ryan Higgins a comic conspiracy. I do not agree with his morality or his ethics," and
you're gonna fire me?
And it is not a company I want to work for, I would fire you because clearly you don't want to work here. So, I mean, for this alone, I am totally on DC's side. I would have fired him too. His book should have been binned, scrapped. You've burned your bridge, and it's even worse because Marvel, right? Marvel is in no better position than DC. So this guy's never working for Marvel either. Because if he agrees with this article also goes on to state how bad Marvel is about their treatment over Jack Kirby. So Marvel's never going to touch this guy, all right? Heaven forbid Dynamite, who's half-licensed properties, they're screwing over their families. IDW's half-licensed stuff at this point as well. Mm-hmm. God forbid something happens with IDW and they get disputes with Hasbro or Mattel or whoever. I mean, he burned a big fucking bridge.
And he very publicly stated it's sort of a weird world we live in, or are kind of just on the outside of when it comes to comic books, because it always sort of strikes me as weird when somebody comes out very publicly and says, I'm never going to work with this company again, or I'm never going to work with these people again, or that kind of stuff, just because there's not that many publishers out there.
Well, and they all know each other, too. They're all friends. Guys like Mark Waid, I guess occasionally talent overrides whatever you say, and so he's kind of been able to float back and forth despite some pretty public breakups with these companies. But I think that was a dumb move. Now, whether you agree with Chris Robertson or not over the treatment of the Kirbys, Siegel and Schuster's family, or Alan Moore and Watchmen, that's a whole other conversation. I would love to talk about it briefly. Brock seems firmly on the creator side, burn the companies down.
Well, everyone gives companies an individual entity, like it's its own individual body, and it's not held accountable like we're held accountable. So I don't understand. That's to me, I don't understand. You give Marvel and DC and all these different companies this kind of persona, and yet they're not held to the moral or ethical standards that individuals are held to. If I break the law, I get thrown in jail. If DC breaks the law or Marvel breaks the law, nothing happens.
Yeah,
well,
it's fine.
Well,
they would, but they are not breaking the law.
But that's the thing is even if they're fined, do you know about it?
Brock, how is DC breaking the law?
How is DC breaking what law?
You just
A morality
said
issue.
Morality is not law.
Yeah.
Okay, ethics.
Ethics aren't laws.
Yes, but those are what laws are based on.
It is not illegal for Alan Moore to have not read a contract he signed 30 years ago. That's not illegal. That's stupid, but it's not illegal.
No, I didn't say it was
DC's
legal.
part.
But the thing is, if you go and read the contract, the wording of the contract
Have you read the contract?
I haven't read the whole thing. I've read bits of it.
Where I do not believe there is that you can read Alan Moore's public or private contract with DC. So if you've read something, I don't know what you read, but I don't think this is something anyone's ever seen. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure private contracts between corporations and individuals do not show up on the internet.
If it actually ends up in court, then they do become public documents and you can read them.
Okay, but it hasn't ended up in court. So I just, for me, my argument with the stuff with, Siegel and Schuster's, they were kids. They sold the rights to Superman for $130. They made, DC or National Periodics at the time made millions and millions of dollars. Should the family should the family get money? Should they get money? Should the family get money? Should rights be given to them throughout time? Absolutely. Not rights. Should royalties be given to them throughout time? Absolutely. How much? I mean, that's debatable. Whether it's 1%, whether it's 10%, whether it's 50%, I don't know. But they should be getting money, absolutely. Should Jack Kirby's family be getting money for his creations for Marvel? Should he get credits in the Avengers movie? Should he be paid for his work? Should he get royalties when the trade paperbacks comes out? Absolutely. Was that the contract he signed? Doesn't sound like it. Do I think Marvel and DC are ethically and morally wrong for not supporting their creators in that manner? Yes, I do believe they are. But I believe the families and the creators want more than I believe they're entitled to, because Jack Kirby and Siegel and Schuster did not publish, promote, or support these characters. Marvel and DC did. And the same with Alan Moore. Alan Moore wrote, he did not edit, he did not draw, he did not letter, he did not color, he did not produce the Watchmen comic, he did not make the promotional material, he did not create the movie, he did not head DC's editorial department that publicized and published it. They did not support 30 years of, and literally millions of copies of this book in print. Alan Moore spent $0 and zero time on the product short of writing the book. So how much should he get? Should DC never be able to touch it? I think they absolutely can do whatever they want with it.
Well,
they offered Alan Moore the ability to use it to write the characters. They gave him money. He's not turning down the royalty checks from the comic. He's taking the money. You know he's taking the money. Should DC? They've confronted him. They said, "Look, we want you to do this." He says no. DC says, "Okay, well, we are legally allowed to do whatever we want with these."
No,
I came to you first.
Alan Moore's situation where Alan Moore's situation where he's in arms about before Watchmen. Oh, you can't use these characters. Blah, blah, blah. It's their DC Comics, the company, not an individual, own the rights.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do them owning the rights, are they a little bit shady?
I don't believe so.
But that's the thing. The rights were supposed to revert back after what?
Here's the bottom line. In a really weird kind of way, Alan Moore got screwed by being too successful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that being said,
if the book wasn't successful, he would have got the rights back, and it never would have been republished. He would have never done anything with it. He's made so much more money by DC promoting this book than he ever would. Now, if it's simply a case of he wants the rights to the characters and doesn't care about the money, then that's fine. But I don't see him turning down those royalty checks for the comics. As Dan Didio very publicly states in one of these articles here, he says, let me see if I can find it. Let's see. It's in here. It says, for everything that's been done for Watchmen, to the books, to the movies, money has gone his way. The right amount that he deserves based on the contracts. We've honored that part of the agreement. It is something that can definitely be debated, but to say that there's clearly one side that is right, I will dispute that. I'm sorry, that was Jim Lee that said that. Yeah. So he has been paid for his work. He's not turning down these checks.
No, it's fine. He's getting paid. That's not the issue there. The issue is the contracts. The issue is the moral and ethical obligations that companies have, like you said, to Simon & Schuster, to the family of Jack Kirby, that these aren't being met. And that's what Chris Robertson is saying by his public statement, is that they're not doing this. They're still treating creators like shit. I mean, if you look over at Marvel, there's the tier system.
Hold on.
For pay.
But you have to take into consideration that Siegel and Schuster's received $130, and that was basically it forever. But then once they got into the 70s and 80s, they got more money from DC, who technically owed them nothing, but DC has paid them. Now they want the rights. Now they want more. I think that's greedy, but whatever.
Well, with that, the problem is it was also the issue with the lawyer.
Well,
the family.
Kirby got screwed over by Marvel. He didn't get his artwork back. He was paid for what he did, but he never got royalties. Should they get royalties? Absolutely. Yeah. But in the case of Alan Moore, he gets royalties. He gets everything that Kirby would get or the Siegels and Schusters would get. So what else? He doesn't. Marvel. These characters exist. Brian Michael Bendis has done more for the Avengers than Jack Kirby has. And I mean, I hate to say that, but he's done more. He has moved these characters. He has affected these characters more than the original creators.
But Jack Kirby's the one that created them.
Well, here's what kills me
Bendis
about
wouldn't have
this
an
stuff.
Avengers to do anything with if Kirby didn't create it.
If somebody like you hear stories and it's really easy to kind of go, okay, well that was just wrong because he took this thing and turned it into something more successful than it was when he bought it, and somehow that means that the value he bought it for wasn't the correct value. To me, if they want to support their creators and give money to their creators, that doesn't make them ethically right or wrong. That makes them sort of a nice company because, as Ryan stated, when the agreements were signed, when everything was done, DC wasn't saying, I want to buy these rights for X amount of years. There's all sorts of negotiation that goes back and forth. People feel that it's worth this amount, or they really need the money. They make bad choices. At what point do you have to live with those bad choices?
Well, the thing is, I mean, if you look at, I mean, and this is a topic we should never talk about ever again on this podcast, but with the whole copyright laws and all this stuff that's, yeah, laugh.
Oh, we'll never stop laughing.
I know. But that's the thing is, if you look at like copyright law and you look at how it's being rewritten always and constantly over and over and over again.
Well, it's not. That's what a lot of people have a problem with, is that it's being extended. It's not being rewritten.
And that's the thing. But that's the thing is it's being extended to copyright law doesn't necessarily protect you as an individual anymore. It protects the companies that own the rights to the material. But that's the thing is companies can sit there and send out a net and buy up a ton of stuff, and it never sees the light of day, and they own the rights for X amount of time. But that one thing, that one gem stands out, and now, boom, it's a success. You're leaving the creator in the dust when all you were doing was blanketing something. And I think that's the thing is
That's illegal how?
it didn't say it was illegal. It's one of those things where it's the moral and ethical thing where you're talking about Kirby's family. Do they deserve something? Yes. Does Simon & Schuster's family deserve something? Yes. Does Alan Moore deserve something? Yes. Alan Moore got
it. And he gets it.
Yeah, he gets it. Do Kirby get it? No.
Right.
Does Simon & Schuster get it?
Yes.
They got it. That's still debatable. Now, the greediness...
they get a shit ton of money. The problem is they want a shit ton more. Mm-hmm. And the rights. And never going to happen.
Well, and that's the thing is you get to a point where you become... Like it's the greediness that's coming out, and that's where, that's ethically and morally wrong in a sense to be greedy like that. But the corporations are greedy like that, so it's two greedy parties sitting in a pool.
See, to me, okay, getting into sort of computers and that kind of stuff. When you start looking at some of the history with DOS and that kind of stuff, it was paid for. He purchased it, he sold it as an OS, he made lots of money shortly after buying it, but the person who had it wasn't going to do the same thing with it. He was sitting on something that didn't have much value to him, so he sold it for the value he felt it was worth. At what point can you say, yes, that person was short-sighted and all that? So you're basically saying because the person didn't know what they had, it makes the company who bought it morally wrong.
Okay. Here, I'll use this. I'll use this example. We can all relate to this example. Ryan, you go over to somebody's house to look at a collection of comic books.
Sure.
And they have a pristine copy of pick whatever the book you want.
Sure.
That costs a shit ton of money. But this guy doesn't know anything about what he has.
Okay.
Do you take advantage of him and shortchange him?
I would say that is not an accurate assumption because...
No.
Hold on.
It's a what-if question.
Hold on. I don't think that's an accurate statement, and I'll tell you why. Or what's the word I'm looking for? That's not an accurate... it doesn't work with what we're talking about here because...
A comparison...
Thank you.
He said somebody who doesn't know what they have.
Hold on. Because just in the case of, like, let's say Superman or Watchmen, it was nothing until it came out. And I'd say in the case of Watchmen, it wasn't anything until years later. So it would be like you coming over to my house or me going over to your house and buying a random comic book. Not an Action Comics number one, because that's already a known quantity. A random comic book that 10 years later becomes $1 million comic book. I bought it when it was nothing. Now, if you talk about a case of Facebook that just bought Instagram, right, for $1 billion, right? If they had paid $100,000 for it a year ago or 2 years ago, and now they've turned it into this $1 billion company, whatever. That's on Facebook. That Facebook made it that.
The Facebook didn't make Instagram what it was. Instagram made itself what it is.
But Facebook, right, so that's why they paid so much for it, because it was already a known quantity. But when Zynga buys these tiny little games that are never going to be anything, and then they put it in with Zynga, and now suddenly it hits 500 million people because it's in Zynga's network, it never would have hit that point. So would Alan Moore in the mid-'80s self-publishing a comic sell like Watchmen sold? No. Would the Siegel and Schuster self-publishing a comic in the 1930s sell like Superman sold? No.
I would go as far to say, is there a good chance that Superman would no longer be around today?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Look at all those characters from the time period, and they created a ton of characters that are completely forgotten.
So
now.
basically, I mean, it boils down to this: you have to have creative talent and you have to have money.
Sure.
So
You have to have both.
you have to have both. Now, what is the moral or ethical value of both percentage-wise?
It's debatable between situations.
But that's the thing is what is not just across the board, anything. You buy up some small little thing. You have the money to put it out. I don't have the money to put it out.
It's not just the money, though. It's the talent. It's when you're talking comic books. It's the editors. It's the writers. It's the promotional departments.
No, you
it's
have
the
no
T-shirt
it's,
manufacturers, and it's 1,000 moving pieces.
Exactly. It's all of that. But you don't have the original without the creator.
But you don't have the end product without all the necessary parts to go through. So I would say it's half and half.
Okay, so it's 50-50.
To a degree, sure.
To a degree. So if it's you're talking about moral and ethical when it comes down to the cash. Now, because DC or Marvel might represent have the ability to do more, right? But that's what they're there for.
But they don't have to be.
Okay.
They don't have to be.
Then they're not a business.
Okay, I want
They
to.
don't have to be there for you. They don't have to.
No, not
they
there for
choose,
you.
they
That's
choose
their-
what they
that's
want to
their-
do. They're
that's
in
their-
their right to hire who they want to hire. They're in the right to fire who they want to fire. If an employee wants to say whatever he wants to say, that's in his right to do. Well, there might be consequences.
And here's the thing that bothers me about the idea of buying something and then paying more for it later is if you want to keep that a two-way street with creators, are you saying something that a company buys, spends a bunch of money on, and then tanks, the company should then be owed money from the creators because they
That's a
took
good point.
massive loss?
That's a really good point.
Well, if it's 50-50, I mean, if you're not helping each other out, then you're hindering each other. So I mean, it's a negative environment anyway. So
my point basically is when you get into the Siegel and Schuster argument, do I believe that it's good business sense to support people who helped you get there? Yes. Do I believe it's good for the company, even in terms of the public eye, to give some money to them to say thank you for helping us get to where we are now? Absolutely.
Well,
Do I feel that the Superman they bought even remotely resembles the Superman we have now? The Superman that Christopher Reeve even played in movies that have been published in... I mean...
hundreds of creators.
Here. Yeah, I got a pretty good example. We all remember Wave Entertainment or Dreamwave Entertainment.
Yeah.
You remember all that stuff, like Warlands, all that stuff. Where are they now?
Bankrupt three times over.
Yeah, they're done, right? Okay, their stuff was up for auction.
okay.
Who knows? I forgot who actually bought it, but say you bought it. Say you bought it for, I don't know, $2,000. I don't know. It becomes the biggest thing. You sell millions of copies of stuff that's already been created. Pat Lee comes back going, you owe me like half of everything you made right now. Would you give it to him? Because he's the creator of that company. Would you give it to him?
But the thing is, if I'm making that much money, and it's not necessarily about if I'm making that much money, I would honestly, personally, for myself, feel like, you know what? I'm thankful for what Pat did. I'm going to give back.
But
Half of what you done?
That doesn't make
No.
you ethically wrong if you don't.
Because you
Yeah,
have
but
to
would
support.
you give him half?
You have
Because that's what you're arguing right
because you have to pay yourself, your lease on your buildings, your hundreds of employees. You have to pay every single person to put any time and effort into this. They physically, if it was a case of DC where he goes, we owe 50% of the money from all Superman merchandise for all of eternity to the Siegel and Schuster families, they would just drop the comics entirely. They would get rid of Superman on,
Well, yeah,
on
and that's the
hard
thing is
money.
that's why I think
because it's not worth it.
That's why I was saying the business people are bringing. I mean, you're bringing the money to the table. Of course, you're going to get a bigger piece of the pie. But the fact of the matter is when do you stop the business from getting more and more of the pie, and the creators getting less and less of the pie?
I mean,
Because I mean, look at Marvel. Marvel tiers their payment schedule. It's A, B, and C tiering. We've known about this. They've talked about it. It's A, B, and C tiering. The B and C tiering on there makes it so that Marvel doesn't necessarily have to give them benefits.
sure.
Businesses do this all the time, so they can cut corners and not provide things for people so that people can live and survive.
Brock, but these people are allowed not to work there. It's their own
See,
choice
that's
to work
the
there.
thing is if you have a labor force that wants to work, and you exploit that labor force the way you
If
exploit
these guys
it.
got ideas that are better than Marvel, there's the guy that does Mouse Guard. He doesn't need Marvel or DC. He does it on his own.
Yeah, that's
So,
fine.
I mean, if these guys got ideas on their own to spread on their own, why not? They'll do it.
Okay.
But these guys need these characters. They need these characters already exist.
Some people, they're perfectly happy working within a company, let's say an Apple or a Microsoft. They come up with all these ideas. They're rewarded by constant, consistent payment and medical coverage and stock options, and they are perfectly fine working. None of the burdens on them. If it succeeds, cool. If it fails, cool. It doesn't matter because they're getting paid either way. All the creations go towards the good of the company. They don't care. Then there are other people where, damn the man, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to make my own game. I'm going to put it on Steam. I'm going to go do the podcast and pimp myself on Kotaku, and I'm going to go do all this stuff myself. Cool.
Yeah.
They're both right.
Yeah.
They can do it either way. Video game company. So, Chris Robertson wants to go out and do Memorial for IDW and do everything himself. Perfect. But when you get in bed and you want to do Superman, you're following Superman's rules. This is the rules of the company. You you do it one way or the other.
You're getting into another gray area because then it's talent. Because Morrison can play around how he wants.
Grant Morrison can go out and create his own comic book company tomorrow if he wanted to. Why does he need to work for DC? Why does Jeff Johns need to work with DC?
Because they like working with the characters.
Okay.
So if you like working with something, does that give the company the right to exploit you?
Do you think Grant Morrison
no,
and Jeff
but-
Johns are being exploited?
No, but what about
But
the?
that doesn't
what
give
about
the
other
creators to exploit the characters either. They have to follow the rules. I mean, a company has rules.
Yeah, but that's the thing is everyone's getting on Chris Robertson for saying what he said, which
No.
is just a
No,
flat out.
I'm not going on his
No.
case. He has full right to say whatever he wants to write. I respect him for it.
But
Hey,
DC's going to fire him. I mean,
But
I
that's
respect
the
for
thing is-
DC
but
whatever
that's
they
the
want to
thing
do.
is you
I mean,
say
he has expected something like this is going to happen.
But that's the thing is the guy's already said that this is all canceled. This is
yeah,
all
did he
done.
not get paid?
He got paid.
He got
That's
paid.
fine.
Exactly. But
Everything's
that's the end of
finished.
discussion right there.
Everything's finished.
That's the end of discussion right
he
there.
gets
got paid.
no royalties from the trade paperbacks and the eventual printing. But
That's DC's choice.
That's his
DC
problem.
has a choice. Go not to
No,
print
and
these
that's
things out
fine. But
anymore.
that's the thing is a guy basically publicly says he's going to quit because of this, and the company says, "Well, you're just fired."
That's
Well-
the company's right to do so.
Basically, this is how I see it. I go up to my boss tomorrow and say, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice. And he kind of goes, you know what? If you're leaving the company, why don't we just do a clean break right now and let you go now?
they can do that.
And sure, in most cases, there may even be a clause in there where I still get paid for the next 2 weeks. They just...
Well, I mean,
that's
2 weeks.
really how I see it.
But that's
A
but that's
2
the
weeks
thing
notice is being nice to the
But
company.
that's the thing
you can
is
walk out tomorrow.
That's the thing is you're going up, you're being nice, you're saying here's my 2 weeks. Where that's what Chris was doing. He was saying this is where I'm at. I'm quitting at this
Yeah,
point in
but
time.
on top of it,
This is-
he smash talked him.
I'm quitting in 2 weeks
geez.
because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he could have said, "Hey, I'm done with this company," and didn't say anything after that. I'm sure he would
And-
have like.
but then
here's the
I
thing.
know. Well, hold on, Toby. You totally hit it. If he said, "Hey guys, I'm doing an arc for Fairest, but that's going to be my last work for DC. I'm going to focus on my creator-owned stuff," and
Nothing.
Nothing.
I guarantee you nothing would
Nothing would
happen.
In fact,
It's just-
I would say you can go even farther than that because as much as Kirkman kind of did the whole rallying cry of telling people, go do more creator-owned stuff, I don't feel like he burned the bridges. He just said, I believe in...
he burned the bridges at Marvel. He'll never work at Marvel again
Okay.
because he was working at Marvel and his shit wasn't selling outside of Marvel Zombies. I guarantee you, there's some stuff that we didn't hear about there because that did not come off as a clean break to me. I guarantee you this stuff
I don't
happened
feel
there.
the stuff he did, though, was...
Because he came out real strong afterwards, being F Marvel and DC, make your own Walking Dead.
Well, see, to me, this is what he was saying, and this is how I interpreted it, and it's all open for interpretation. But he kind of came out and said, you know what? There is a certain level of success you can reach with the big two, but not everybody's going to be a Bendis. Not everybody's going to sell the numbers they need. You can actually make a good living in comic books in the indie world selling much fewer issues because you'll get a larger cut of the pie. And look at me. I have Invincible. I have Walking Dead. You don't have to work for the big two. You can make it work at Image. You can make it work at other
Now, Image is a company that's totally set up for 50-50 payment, or maybe even more. I mean, I'm sure.
Image is just the machine. Image is just the.
They're just the publisher.
Punk.
Yeah.
You insert. Here's the finished product. They go punk, and put it out.
And
that's it.
To me, I understand that some people may have been put off him sort of doing this rallying cry of why don't more people come with me to come start doing more creative work?
Because 90% of everything's garbage.
Well, here's a good example. Here's a good example. Frank Cho.
Yeah.
I love his creator-owned stuff like hundreds of times better than any of the stuff he's done for Marvel. Why does he do it to Marvel? He's getting a good paycheck. He doesn't have to do his own stuff. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, he's happy.
Because just like Campbell, they pay more for covers.
He's doing interiors, though, most of the
but
time.
that's the thing. They're going to pay Cho more for interiors because Cho is in demand. That's the thing is he's in demand. He can set his own price. But the thing is you're talking about Chris Robinson's talking about the creators, right? How they treat the creators. That's not.
Okay, my point on that one was
it's not the Johns or the Morrison.
Cho is making more money for less work with Marvel right now, as opposed to doing all on his own with University Square or Liberty Meadows.
Because he's in demand.
Yeah, so what's wrong with that? He's using Marvel to do less work.
Exactly, but the thing is he's in demand. What about all the other creators? What about all the people that break their backs to bring you comic books every week?
Not everyone can be paid the big.
I'm not saying everyone needs to get paid the big salary.
So you mean every untalented creator should get a big piece of pie?
If you're a creator that gets your work done on time,
they get paid.
Task,
they get paid.
But that's the thing is if Chris Robinson is coming out and saying the way DC treats their creators, doesn't that throw a flag in your direction that maybe there's a question?
Well, you have
these other people might be happy with. There's some
have,
things that this guy is not happy with.
Well, you have literally 100 artists and writers that seem to have no problem with DC. You know, Brian Azzarello, J. Michael Straczynski, Amanda Conner. These people have no problem. You know, Dwayne McDuffie, Jesus, guy doing the Man Watchman book. That was his name.
Dane Cook. Or
Dane Cook, Darwin Cook. These guys obviously have no problem because the money's good enough, right? So it's like at some point money trumps morality, I guess, if the dollar bill's high enough. Or maybe they're just like, hey, this can be fun. We don't care. You know, some of these guys, the editors and the writers, you know, your Johns or your Morrisons and your, you know, Gail Simones or whatever. I get to do what I want to do. Cool. You know, I mean, if you were to quit a company because of the moral and ethical issues of that company, no one would work for Microsoft or Apple or Google or any company on the face of the earth.
In the United States?
We shouldn't even start talking about film companies.
Hollywood.
It just opens a whole nother can.
But that's the thing is you also look, do these creators, I mean, Hollywood at least has, and the Screenwriters Guild, the Actors Guild, they have all of these places set up to get rights for basic rights like healthcare and all this stuff. There's no comic book one. I mean, do the writers belong to the Writers Guild? Do the artists belong to an Artist Guild?
They could if they wanted to. They're hired on freelance for the most part.
The only thing that bothers me about...
But plenty are on staff.
When you get into sort of the question of creators with Marvel or DC versus sort of like Writers Guild and all that is, yeah, the people who were writing Lost, there's sort of like the big two that for sure got good paychecks for Lost. And then there's a bunch of other writers who kind of came through. I have no clue how much Paul Dini got paid for the first year of doing work on Lost. I'm sure it was good, but he had writers underneath him and you kind of get into this thing where I don't.
But the Writers Guild sets up so that those under.
But you know that they have to pay for that, right?
The Writers Guild.
You have to pay to be in it.
Yeah, you have to be paid. You have to
it's a union.
It's a union.
All right, fine. You don't make enough money to pay him, or you don't. You make money just enough to pay him. What's good gonna do that for you?
So kind of going back to
for getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have barely enough just to pay for the union.
The thing is once you pay a main fee and then you're in.
Yeah, you're in, but what if you're not picking up work?
Then you're not picking up work.
You're paying every year or every month.
Yeah, you have to pay anyways.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is they're there to support you to help you get jobs.
It doesn't mean it works out that way.
I know, but the thing is they set the standard, they set the rate.
There's probably 100 times. Yeah. There's 100 times more writers than jobs in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other thing for me, just really is what kind of hits home to me in terms of sort of with the writer's strike and how they were talking about sort of digital compensation for all, and a lot of that's above my head, but when it comes to sort of like creating a character like the Tick's actually a very good example, because the Tick was creator owned, and he sold the like TV show rights to Fox, and he sold the toy rights over here, and it really sort of separated out I created the character, these are all the rights that are associated with the character, and he sold all of them and held on to a very finite amount, and all the power to the guy for Ben Edlund. Yay. But there was definitely stuff sort of associated with that character and specific rights. The thing that I've never really gotten a really clear sense of is how that translates at Marvel or DC, as in, I know they get a percentage of comic book sales if it goes over a certain amount. I know
I know DC, you get it regardless. Kurt Busiek's mentioned numerous times that some of the various characters he created, he got a pretty decent paycheck for Batman Dark Knight, I think, because he created a character in the comic that they used in the movie. So DC's always been pretty good about paying creators good money for these books.
And to me, that's
for the characters.
That's where I don't mind a lot of these sort of gray areas, as long as, if you want to say and go back to what happened with Siegel and Schuster and say they thought they were just selling a comic book character to make more comics of, and they deserve a cut of the toys, the movies, the TV shows. I have no problem with all of that, especially because a lot of that comes down to sort of the understanding of what you were selling. If it's very clear that they were fully aware they were selling all the rights to the character, not just the comic book, but all the rights to do toys and movies, and whole nother issue, whole nother question of what
I think what Charlie's touching on is that they thought they were selling the rights to this comic book character to make comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, they sold the character. They sold the entire concept straight up.
That's the thing, is they sell the concept. So now that we have new technology...
But it was different time, different laws.
I know, but you sell new technology, why doesn't it come up for reassessment?
It does. That's exactly what they're doing right now. It changed in the 70s, and now for DC, at least the Siegel and Schuster, that's what's happening right now. DC's argument is that it's not the same character. We've done so much stuff to it. The creators and the families have been paid a lot of money throughout the years for it. We've upheld our end of the bargain.
And honestly, for the most part, I agree with them with a character like Superman, because you get into stuff like Batman and Superman and everything else. Those characters are almost defined by the bad guys in the books.
Sure.
And pretty much when they bought Superman, they didn't buy a rogues gallery with him. There was no bad guys that came with it. And most of the most successful Superman properties always had to do with his interactions with Lex Luthor. His
Brainiac.
Exactly. So if you want to start talking about whether or not they deserve a large chunk of the pie basically for creating a suit design, because almost everything else about the character has changed vastly since then, it's a whole nother ball game with that.
But again, it moves, so it evolves. So it's one of those things where if this is what, like you said before, the copyright law isn't changing. Maybe that's what it needs to be. Is you sell the character, you sell this thing. Well, now we're moving into something else, so we need to see where it's going to go. And yeah, that might hinder a lot of great characters. That might handicap a lot of great characters. But as long as you're moving along at the pace where both parties come to the table and both parties are, okay, now we have, digital comic books. What is this going to entail for this? Because now this is a new medium.
And
they always fix it eventually. So.
And that's where, to me, that's the whole question for me with the older creators and all that. Just has to do with getting compensation for where their properties went beyond.
Well, I think
it's Brock. We get to wrap up.
In the end,
we're way past time here. So
if 52 didn't sell a single copy, not a single copy, all these creators that worked on it would have still gotten paid. DC would have taken a big chunk of change into the negative, but in the end, all these creators would have gotten paid.
Yeah.
So I don't really see why there's things wrong about it. Both sides are correct on it.
We're gonna have to. We'll continue this conversation in the weeks and months ahead. Because obviously, conversation will never end.
And I guess we'll pick
Jerry
up
Maguire.
on AVX next week.
Yeah,
instead.
we never even got to talk about AVX number 2.
AVX number 2, solicitation book for AVX Versus, which you should pick up this week.
Okay. Well,
There, I plugged Marvel positively
we'll
for
do
once.
that.
Good luck.
Yeah, we're over the time already, and we didn't even get to talk about AVX 2. But yes, Charlie, next week, if you want to come back, we'll talk
Yeah, I'll
some
come talk about that, and I'll talk about Verse.
Yeah.
And all the tie-ins and all the crossovers and
Well, we got a nice 5-star review here from Trainwreck. He says, we are the reasons he is back in the comics. I believe he. The random picks always provide me with something to search for and helps me discover some true gems I may have missed. Keep up the good work, and please stop saying rejiggered Brock. It's not a real word. Thank you, Trainwreck. I highly agree with everything you say in your 5-star
right,
review.
you're the one, you created it.
And if you want to give us a 5-star review, you should go on iTunes and give us a review, and we'll read your review on the podcast because we like getting good reviews on the podcast because it helps people find the podcast on iTunes. We're pretty high up there still, so we're pretty good on iTunes. Yeah.
Are we in like top? Are we still in the
We're
top
in like
10?
the top 10, top 15 somewhere when you search for comics and comic books and all that. So yeah, pretty good. Toby, thanks for coming by. We'll have a better episode for you next week. Actually, because there's an email I've been saving for you.
Uh-oh.
So catch up on Korra. Someone
all right.
wants to talk about it. So, yeah.
Okay, I guess I have to catch up on Korra now.
Yeah.
Korra is excellent. By the way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm only behind by one episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to hear this episode or more, go to www.geekbox.net, where you can find this podcast, the Geekbox, the Comedy Button, and Good Job Brain. And you can also find, if you're at all interested, you can go on the forums and download All Talk, which is the podcast for the Geekbox forum community members that they run. That's pretty cool. I haven't listened to it. They've been watching Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is awesome. And they're doing like a whole Twin Peaks episode, and then they talk about games and comics and movies too. So that's pretty fun. Anyone
the Geekbox forumites of
anyone that posts on the forums, they'll be on the podcast as well. So if you
nice.
want to just do a Skype or a Mumble podcast with them, you can go and do that. It's pretty cool. You can go to comicsconspiracy.biz. That's a site for the store. You can see all these episodes and our random picks and everything like that. You can go to digital.comicsconspiracy.biz, where you can purchase all your wonderful digital comic books that the creators may or may not be paid for.
but at least it supports you if it's
but
DC
we will.
or DC or Image.
But I'll get paid, and that's all that really matters. No one else cares.
You'll get paid.
Omar's not here, but you should go visit his site, comicsanddecine.com. He does some cool comics and HeroClix and hip-hop and all sorts of stuff on there. We're all on Twitter. Brock Sager, Toby's Toby XI. Charlie is Insanity in Chaos. Omar is also Comics and Decine.
I'm shocked you've never gotten that wrong.
Insanity
Everybody else
in
I
Chaos.
know fails it every time.
Because he's really, really bad at the intros, but he's really, really good at your Twitter name.
yes,
And I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan. Still trying to get that damn Ryan Higgins. That asshole's had that name forever. He won't give it up.
Is that the
Twitter
real
won't
Ryan
give it up.
Higgins? The one behind the drinking?
I don't know who it is. It's the guy with the funny avatar. What's up, Charlie?
also,
Oh, and you get your podcast, of course.
yes, you
The
can
whole
also
reason.
find me over on the Infinite Long Box.
Yeah. And Brock's blog as well.
thanks.
Which is
Conspirator Brock's blog.
no, and Brock's blog.
Yeah, it doesn't do shit.
well.
People go to the reading list and go, "Oh, I want to buy this from you. Let's go to the."
And Brock's blog, conspiratorbrock.com. Yeah, it's good stuff on there.
And yes, Green Lantern Rebirth is awesome.
Yeah. We'll be back next week.
Agreed.
We'll do that AVX talk next week. We got a bunch more to talk about. So, we're wrapping up in about an hour and 20
Wrap it
here.
up,
That's
Bob.
good enough. We will talk to everyone next week.